What I'm about to tell you might save your life, because if you believe that being fit, eating clean and working out 5 days a week makes you immune to a heart attack, you're wrong. I know that because I held a man's hand while he died, October 14th, 1983, 6:47 in the morning. The call came in, male, unresponsive, not breathing. We pulled up to a beautiful home in a quiet neighborhood, manicured lawn, clean driveway, the kind of place where nothing bad is supposed to happen. His wife met us at the door in her bathrobe, screaming. He was fine. He just came back from his run. He was fine. He was lying on the kitchen floor, 51 years old, ran marathons, ate nothing but vegetables and fish, resting heart rate of 52, elite athlete territory. He was in better shape than I was, and I was a paramedic who worked out every day. But that morning, no pulse, no breathing. We started CPR immediately, shocked him 4 times, pushed every drug we had, worked him for 32 straight minutes, 32 minutes of compressions, medications, electricity, and hope. He never came back. At the hospital, the autopsy revealed the truth. A 95% blockage in his left anterior descending artery, the widowmaker. It had likely been growing inside him for 20 years. No symptoms, no warning, no chest pain, no shortness of breath. He ran 6 miles that morning and felt great. Then he walked into his kitchen to get a glass of water, and his heart stopped. Just like that. I carried that memory with me for over 40 years, and it wasn't the only one. I spent 41 years as a paramedic, over 2,000 emergency calls, car accidents, shootings, fires, overdoses. You get used to trauma in this job. You even get used to death. What you don't get used to is the pattern. The heart attacks that shouldn't have happened, the runners, the swimmers, the gym regulars, the women who did yoga and ate organic, the people who did everything right. I watched hundreds of them die, hundreds, and every single time, the same words. He was so healthy. She just had a checkup. He ran a 10K last month. None of it mattered. They were dead anyway. It took me years to understand why. Because your heart does not care how fast you can run. Your heart does not care how clean your diet is. Your heart does not care about how good your cholesterol numbers look on paper. Your heart only cares about one thing. Is blood getting through? You can have arteries that are 90% blocked and feel completely fine. Your body is incredibly good at adapting. It reroutes blood flow. It compensates. It hides the danger, right up until the moment it can't anymore. And when it fails fast. Sometimes you get a warning, chest pain, arm tingling, shortness of breath. Sometimes you get nothing. You just drop. For about half of all men and nearly 2/3 of women, the first symptom of heart disease is death. That's not a statistic from a book. That's what I saw for 4 decades. Perfectly healthy-looking people, alive 1 minute, gone the next. And this is only the beginning. In 1991, we responded to a call at a gym. A 44-year-old man had collapsed while bench pressing. Mid-rep, he just stopped. The bar came down on his chest. The guy next to him ripped it off and started screaming for help. By the time we arrived, maybe 6 minutes later, He was already blue. We worked him. We always worked them. But I knew, from the color of his skin, from the stillness in his eyes. He was gone before we ever walked through that door. The gym handed us his member file. He came in 5 days a week, did cardio, lifted weights, was trying to lose the last 10 pounds before his 20th high school reunion. He was in better shape than most of the paramedics on my crew. His wife told me later he had been feeling tired for a few weeks. Just tired. He thought he was overtraining, thought maybe he needed to dial it back. He never once considered his heart, because healthy people don't have heart attacks. That's what everyone believes. Everyone is wrong. Here's what took me years to understand. The blockages that kill people are not usually the big ones. The 70% or 80% blockages, those often give warnings. You feel tightness in your chest climbing stairs. You get short of breath during exercise. Your body signals that something isn't right, because blood flow is actually restricted enough for you to notice. But the most dangerous blockages, they're different. They're smaller, maybe 40% blocked, maybe 50%, not enough to reduce blood flow, not enough to cause symptoms, but they're unstable, soft, like blisters filled with toxic debris, covered by a thin cap of tissue. And when that thin cap tears, when that blister ruptures, your body panics. It thinks there's a wound inside your artery, so it sends platelets to form a clot. Within minutes, that clot grows, bigger, thicker, until it completely seals off the artery. Total blockage, instant. Blood stops flowing, heart muscle starts dying. And if enough muscle dies quickly enough, the heart stops. That's what happened to the marathon runner. That's what happened to the man at the gym. And then it happened to someone I never thought it would happen to. My brother. Dale was 4 years younger than me. He was the healthy one in the family. I smoked for 15 years before I quit. Ate whatever was in front of me. Worked brutal hours. Didn't sleep enough. Dale, he started running in the 1970s before it was popular. Went vegetarian in the 80s. Meditated. Did everything right. In 1995 he was 60 years old, newly retired from teaching. He and his wife had trips booked to Europe, Alaska, Japan. For the first time in years he was excited about the future. On March 7th he came back from his morning run, sat down in his living room, and his heart stopped. His wife found him an hour later. She thought he was sleeping. He was still warm when she touched him. The paramedics who responded were guys I knew. They told me there was nothing they could have done, that he was gone before he hit the chair. I asked for the autopsy report. 90% blockage in the widowmaker. No symptoms. No warning. No history of heart problems. Perfect cholesterol. Perfect blood pressure. Perfect everything, except for the one thing that mattered. Blood wasn't getting through. After Dale died, I became obsessed. I read everything I could about heart disease. I spoke to cardiologists, researchers, anyone who could explain how a healthy person could have arteries that looked like clogged pipes and feel absolutely nothing. And what I discovered changed everything I believed about checkups. Because the truth is, standard checkups are almost useless when it comes to predicting heart attacks. After my brother died, I couldn't let it go. I had spent decades watching strangers die from heart attacks. Now it was my own blood. I needed answers. So I started asking hard questions. Why didn't his doctor catch it? Why didn't the yearly checkups show anything? Why didn't the stress test raise a red flag? And the answer shocked me, because most of the tests people rely on don't actually look at what's killing them. Let's break it down. A stress test measures how your heart performs under pressure. You walk on a treadmill, your heart rate goes up. They monitor rhythm and blood flow. But here's the problem. A stress test only shows reduced blood flow if an artery is already severely blocked. If you have a 40% or 50% soft plaque, the kind that can rupture without warning, the stress test will look normal. You'll pass, and you'll walk out feeling safe. Blood work, it shows cholesterol, triglycerides, markers floating in your bloodstream. But blood work does not show whether those particles are sticking to your artery walls. It doesn't show plaque. It doesn't show blockages forming quietly in the dark. It just shows ingredients, not the damage. Your doctor listening with a stethoscope, they can hear rhythm problems. They can detect murmurs, but they cannot hear a plaque building inside an artery. They cannot hear a rupture waiting to happen. That's when I learned something critical. If you want to know what's happening inside your arteries, you have to actually look at your arteries. For years that wasn't practical. It was invasive, expensive, reserved for people already showing symptoms. But medicine changed, and most people still don't know it. There is a test called a coronary calcium scan. It takes 5 minutes, no needles, no dye, no treadmill. You lie down, hold your breath a few times. A machine takes pictures of your heart. What it detects is calcified plaque, the hardened buildup that's been forming over years. It gives you a number, a score of 0. No detectable calcified plaque. That's excellent. A score over 100. You need to start paying attention. A score over 400. You are in dangerous territory. You may be walking around with a ticking time bomb in your chest. There's another test, a CT angiogram. This one goes deeper. It doesn't just show the hard plaque. It shows the soft plaque, the unstable blisters that can rupture without warning. This is the scan that can find the killer before it kills. I got my first calcium scan when I was 75 years old. After 41 years as a paramedic, after thousands of calls, after watching hundreds die, my score came back 482. I had spent my entire career thinking I understood heart disease, and I had no idea I was carrying a bomb in my chest. They followed it with a CT angiogram, significant soft plaque in 2 arteries. The cardiologist looked at me and said something I will never forget. If we hadn't found this, you probably had 2 years. Maybe less if you experienced extreme stress. 2 years. That's all. They placed 3 stents, 3 small pieces of metal that kept my arteries open. I walked out of that hospital 3 days later with clear blood flow and a second chance at life. That was 16 years ago. I'm still here. My brother isn't. The marathon runner isn't. The man at the gym isn't. The difference isn't that I was healthier than they were. The difference is that I looked inside my chest before it was too late. Let me tell you something most people don't understand. Heart attacks don't always look like heart attacks. Hollywood lied to you. It shows a man clutching his chest, gasping dramatically, collapsing in slow motion. Yes, that happens, but often it doesn't. I once responded to a call where a woman thought she had food poisoning. She was vomiting, severe stomach pain, sweating, pale. She almost didn't call 911. Her daughter forced her to. When we walked in, I took one look at her face and felt that familiar chill. I had seen that look hundreds of times. Something in the eyes, a greyness in the skin, a silence in the room that doesn't belong there. The daughter kept saying, "It's just her stomach." I said, "No, it's not. It was a massive heart attack." We got her to the hospital in time. She survived. If she had decided to sleep it off, she would have died in her bed. Here's what you need to know. Women often present differently than men. Instead of crushing chest pain, it might be extreme fatigue, nausea, jaw pain, back pain, shortness of breath, a strange sense of dread. Sometimes it's just a feeling, a deep internal sense that something isn't right, and people ignore it because they feel healthy. Listen carefully. Feeling healthy and being healthy are not the same thing. The people I watched die felt fine. They trusted their bodies to warn them. Their bodies adapted, compensated, covered up the problem until it was too late. Your body is incredibly good at surviving right up until the second it can't. If you are over 40, you need to seriously consider a coronary calcium scan. Not because you feel sick, but because you might not. It's fast. It's inexpensive compared to the cost of a funeral. And it gives you information you cannot get from a treadmill test or basic blood work. If your score is 0, good. Check again in a few years. If it's over 100, you need to pay attention. If it's over 400, you need action. Now, not later. And if anything looks suspicious, push for the CT angiogram. Find the soft plaque. Find the blisters. Find the silent killers before they find you. Doctors don't always suggest these scans for people without symptoms, sometimes because of outdated guidelines, sometimes because insurance resists it, sometimes because you don't look high risk. Suggest it yourself. Advocate for your own life. No one will care about it more than you. I am 91 years old now, retired for decades. I have outlived most of my colleagues. I have outlived my brother. I have outlived people who were stronger, leaner and more disciplined than I ever was. The only difference, I looked. They didn't. I still think about that marathon runner sometimes. October 14th, 1983. I remember the kitchen tile under my knees. I remember the sound of his wife screaming. I remember holding his hand as the life left his body. He was 51. He did everything right. If he had gotten one scan, just one, he probably would have lived another 30 years. He would have watched his children grow up, held his grandchildren, traveled with his wife, grown old. Instead, he died on his kitchen floor because no one looked inside his chest until it was too late. I think about my brother, 60 years old, newly retired, plans booked to Europe, Alaska, Japan. He did everything right. He trusted how he felt. He trusted his annual checkups. He trusted that being healthy meant being safe. He was wrong, and it cost him the rest of his life. I am 91 years old. I have been retired for over 26 years. I have outlived hundreds of patients. I have outlived my own brother. And I am not here because I was healthier than they were. I am here because I got scanned. Because when I found out my calcium score was 482, I didn't ignore it. I acted. 3 stents, medication, monitoring, follow-ups, 16 extra years of life and counting. So now this comes down to one simple decision. You can trust how you feel, or you can trust what you measure. You can assume you're fine because you run, lift, eat clean, and look good in the mirror. Or you can spend 5 minutes getting a scan that tells you the truth. If you are over 40, get a coronary calcium scan. If it shows something concerning, push for further imaging. Do not wait for symptoms. Do not wait for chest pain. Do not wait for the dramatic movie scene. Because for many people, the first symptom is the last moment of their life. I spent 41 years watching people die because they didn't know what was growing silently inside them. I don't want you to become another memory someone carries for 40 years. The technology exists. The information is available. The only thing standing between you and the truth about your heart is your decision to go get checked. Make the decision. Make it this month. Make it before you convince yourself that you feel fine. Your life might depend on it. I know mine did.